The Conversation Hour with Richard Fidler.
My next guest for you is Daniel Kitson. Daniel's a shambling, beautiful ruin of a man. He is, though, as one critic said, his comedy is art. You might have seen him on TV musing about life, beauty and truth on the Melbourne Comedy Festival Gala TV specials. Daniel comes from the picturesque town of Denbydale in Yorkshire. He announced his great desire to become a comedian on a UK quiz show, and now he's considered by many as one of the world's greatest stand-up comedians. These days, he commands huge audiences in the UK and the Melbourne Comedy Festival, and we're bringing him to 18 million people live right at the moment here on The Conversation Hour. Welcome, Daniel Kitson.
Hello, 18 million people.
Now, we just played the song by the Lucksmiths there. Now, you've got a connection with those guys, the Lucksmiths, is that right?
Yeah. They came and saw a show I did a couple of years ago in Melbourne, and then they asked me to write the liner notes on their most recent single.
Now, is that hard for you to do? Because you actually enjoy their music. And so
yes.
Does that mean you're going to have to drop all your comic irony and all those things?
Well, no, you see, it's a song that is largely about how the pain of a breakup, however horrific, will eventually subside and will become, as the title of the song states, a hiccup in your happiness, right? But then I wrote this fairly bleak, just sort of, love doesn't exist. You know, on the back of the thing.
It's a nice song, but the message just isn't true, actually.
Yeah. Well, it'd be very lovely if that all happened, wouldn't it? But no. We all need to wake up.
Well, I was just going to say to you, you are a UK comedian. You come from Yorkshire, and so much of British comedy is, of course, informed by the fact that it's a kind of an old and melancholic place, England, really. It's a bit grey. How do you cope in Australia with all the sunshine and colour here?
I just really foist my melancholy on people. I don't care how bright the sky is, I still find things to be melancholy about. I absolutely love melancholy. I think it's a wonderful feeling.
So rather than this is a measure of your bloody mindedness there.
Yes.
So rather than try and sort of like be brought up to the general happy vibe, you want to bring the rest of the country down.
Absolutely. I do not trust joy. I think it's a transient. You know, it's entirely based on too much sugar. You know.
So carbonated drinks have a lot to explain the general happy demeanour of people. Daniel Kitson, is it true that, look, we don't get this show blockbusters in Australia, but is it true that you announced to the people of Britain you wanted to become a comedian on that?
It's a TV show for children at high school, really, and I went on it when I was 16, I think.
Not as an adult, which is nice.
Yeah. I'd probably have a slightly unfair advantage then. And basically, it's a game where there's a board and there's a team of two and a team of one. Well, there's a team of two and one. And the team of two have to get from one side to the other side, and the team of one has to get from the top to the bottom. It's 5 across and it's 4 up, you see. And you say, I'll have all the tiles have a single letter on, and you say, I'll have an A, please, Bob, because the person who hosted it was called Bob.
Right.
And then he'll say, what A is an apple? And you'll say, it's an apple. No, he'll say, what A is a fruit? Like a pear, and he'll say apple. Oh. Bit trickier than that.
Like words like aardvark.
Yes. And antagonistic.
Appendectomy.
Surely that starts with an E, doesn't it? No. He said, is it true you want to be a comedian? And I said, yes. So that's what happened there, yeah.
And what happened there? Was there a kind of a... after you said that, was there a pause? Was there an awkward silence? Or was people happy for you? Or
I think they were generally happy for me. I'd been quite funny on the programme. I'd been more concerned with being funny than answering any questions. And I'd been quite funny, and I hadn't really answered any questions.
A few weeks ago when I interviewed Will Anderson on The Conversation Hour, Will was embarrassed to admit he came from a happy, loving family. And he's very bitter about that because it's left him with a paucity of material to make comedy out of. You know, not many gags about a happy, loving family. Did you lead a similarly comedically deprived childhood?
Yeah. I had a happy, and supportive and wonderful childhood with happy and supportive and wonderful parents.
So your parents did nothing for your comedy, in other words.
Well, no, but then that they did because my comedy, in spite of all its willful melancholia, is largely informed by them. I'd say in terms of it's fairly pompous, and my dad's quite pompous, and it's sort of fairly overtly opinionated and stuff, and he's like that as well, and it has a simultaneous sort of hope for humanity and slight a despair at humanity, and that probably comes from my mum, who has both those.
How about the rhythms of comedy and the language of comedy? Did you pick that up from your dad, hearing him talk around the table?
Well, not. I don't really know. I realised that I wanted to do it when I was about 14, and then just have voraciously scoured all TV and all radio, and just recorded and rewatched and re-listened to everything I could find. So I sort of educated myself in it, really, I suppose. I just sort of went, okay, that's how that works.
Having a stutter, were you discouraged from that at all by people?
No, not really. You see, it's generally not a problem. It's worse in certain situations. It's really bad on the phone, generally, which is awkward. Particularly when I was starting out, and I had to phone people up and say, hello, I'm a comedian, and I'd be stuttering really badly, and they'd be going, this is hilarious, and it'd get a bit awkward. But it's at its worst if I'm in a queue in a shop, and I can see loads of people who are all queuing up.
Waiting behind you.
Yeah, and I'm going, this is going to take a while, and I can see them getting furious about the borderline retarded man in front of them.
So, I'm in conversation with Daniel Kitson, a UK comedian who's touring around Australia at the moment. So when did you have your first crack at stand-up, Daniel? And was it a liberating experience?
Yeah, well, I did it when I was 16. So
16, that's young,
yes,
isn't it?
Young and yet worldly wise. I did it at the National Student Drama Festival in Scarborough, which is a seaside town in the north of England, and it's fairly bleak outside of peak season. And I was there outside of peak season, and I'd sort of known that I was going to do it for about 1 year then, and I did it, and it went very well. And a girl who I was pretty much in love with at school, called Kate, said that was very good. And so I thought, excellent, that will do. I'm going to go and stand on the beach and look at the sky and feel very giddy now for approximately 5 hours. If you'll excuse me, Kate.
You have these lovely long stories you tell on stage, and they're quite poetic. Daniel Kitson, are you tricking your audiences into enjoying poetry? Are you? Is that, you're giving this icing with comedy on top.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all a clever plan. No, I really like words, and I've always liked stuff that will make you laugh, but will also have some sort of emotional hit, so some sort of longer lasting resonance. That was quite a funny stutter, that one. I enjoy that. I just think it's sort of. I just like it more. I like comedy that makes me cry a little bit.
I always found with English audiences, they really listen to what you say too. The English audiences particularly are really alert to the nuances of language, the little inflections there. They really hear it. Australian comedy audiences really like the intensity of comedy or the violence of it sometimes.
Really?
And that's what I always found. But English audiences really hear.
You see, it's interesting. Sort of in England, I've spent years sort of just stoically sticking to what I do, and now I've got I've got a reliable audience over there now who